Blog Talk Radio. And welcome to the Aha Moments radio show for the inspiration, education, and celebration of high-frequency living worldwide. I had to take a breath over that. That's a lot to say all at once. I'm Mari, and welcome back. I am excited to be here once again with you, and so much has been going on. I'm really the midsummer is a very interesting time for those of you listening to replay. If you're listening months and months from now, it's a very interesting time to contemplate. Right? We're sitting at the beach, or we're doing more casual things. We have a little time, and actually, quite frankly, the frequency is very different in this time of year. It's the time of maturation. It's the time of contemplation. It's, generally people slow down because we were kind of trained to do that. And one of the reasons why, from a frequency-based perspective, we are asked to slow down is so that we don't miss our moments. So when you're going really fast in the spring and in the fall, where everything is ambition and hustle and movement and lots of activity, we're in do mode. But there is a balance that needs to happen, and that's a balance that happens from contemplation, from musing, from wondering, and from really taking note and stringing together the signs, the symbols, the synchronicities that are letting us know from our 5D perspective that it's time to buckle up, and it's time to watch and to notice and to take note of those frequency-based signs, those frequency-based directions that are always coming your way. Your higher self is sending you at least 100 messages a day. People think that number is, very high. It's actually not. It's way more than that. But at least 100 discernible messages are coming to you from your higher self on a daily basis. Everything, like I said before, from the most micro things, like should you have, asparagus or an artichoke, all the way to, medical advice, relationship advice, and what's your next big moment? What's that thing? What's that opportunity? What's that direction that you should go where you will shine and emanate the life force, the frequency, the light to others, right? And to yourself. But where is that next moment for you? And the thing that I've noticed is that we have a tendency, and I was just talking to someone the other day, and it was really inspired me to do the show. And it's like, that's going to be the show, because I just out of nowhere, we were talking, and they were talking about their career and all this procrastination and second guessing and doubting and overanalyzing, and they were stuck in analysis paralysis and really trying to predict the outcome of things before they take the first step. And maybe you can relate to that. Have you ever really just gotten yourself in such a tizzy that you're just trying to predict the outcome before you would actually take the first step towards that thing that in your heart is the thing for you to do next? And so I looked at them and I said, don't miss your moment. And it was just this phrase that sort of popped out of my mouth. And I know it was my higher self, being a messenger, me being a messenger from probably their higher self, just our higher self, will commune with each other. So sometimes you are used as a messenger. And then when you are sensitive and you're fluent in your 5D abilities, you will notice that, there are times where somebody says, oh my gosh, you just sent me a message and you may not even know it. right? Because we are all interconnected and we're all, messengers and messagees, those who receive messages and those who can deliver messages. We're all that for each other. Our higher self, your higher self, my higher self, they all commune. And like, even when I get on shows like this, or when I'm teaching in my mastermind courses, or, whatever, even when I used to do private sessions, I would always sit and ask my higher self to connect with my client's higher self, so that we together could come up with the right combination that would really slip right down through the defenses and into the heart space of the person, because your heart space is where the energy and the frequency emanates from. That's where there's actually more intelligence in your heart muscles actually than even your brain. Your heart actually gives intelligence and direction to the brain. So it's a very interesting thing. There's a lot of research that's been done on that. So it's important to be able to drop down, and it's important to be able to stop the mental mind from getting in your way and from truncating you before, you get all of the download that you need in order to make that next step, so that you don't miss your moment. And so on today's show, I was inspired by the conversation that I was having the other day. And, and I could just see this person kind of going down the wrong path, just making a lot of fear-based, sort of trappy kind of decisions, sort of short-sighted, very kind of a weird logic, because they were in such a negative space that it was kind of like a negative logic. It was like logic on the negative side of things, as opposed to energetic logic. Energetic logic, 5D logic, is very different than 3D logic. Your 3D mind is really here to logisticize your world. It looks for direction from your higher self. That's the way we're built. We're built to have our 5D self, our expanded self, our true self, that portion of you that is helping the portion of you that's in the body navigate the world. Your 3D mind is just like the navigation system in your car, in the sense of, the navigation system is a satellite, but it pours down into the car, downloads into the car, so that you can hear the next turn, right? You can hear, the next exit and the next set of directions. Well, it's the same thing when your 5D self is here to download the next steps for you into the 3D experience. And your 3D self now, it's not the negative ego and all these things that people try to make it very fancy and very, sinister. It's not. What it's really there to do is to logisticize your world, to help you to organize, to help you to take action, physical action in the physical world. Your 5D self needs your 3D self. So we're not trying to bastardize the 3D self, but at the same time, if you're trying to run your whole world just on 3D, just on intellect, just on, your mental mind alone, you are seriously truncating your world, and you are missing many moments by doing that. Many, many, many moments. And a lot of times what's even worse than missing a moment altogether is when you know the moment is there and you don't take it. Because you're second guessing, because you're doubting, because you're overanalyzing, because you're an analysis paralysis. And then because you're trying to predict the outcome before you're willing to take that inspired action. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, how do you know that a big opportunity or moment is brewing for you? How does your 5D self, your higher self, let you know that there's something on the horizon, that you need to sort of wake up and start to pay attention, because something's around the corner. Something's around the bend. Now, this might surprise you. One of the first things you'll see is things dropping away. Things start to go wrong. And I don't want to scare you, but sometimes if you start to see a flurry of things going wrong, of things sort of not connecting, of dots starting to disconnect, of things starting, the strong chain that you thought you had, you start to see it start to snap, and those things that you thought were so connected and so directed and so often habituated just start to fall away. Now, most of the time when I was teaching multidimensional manifesting, when many moons ago, people would come in and they get very, very excited about their bucket list and all of that. And they would go like, whole hog after whatever it is they desired with every piece of their being. And they would say, I want it fast and I want it furious. I want it now. And so the first thing that would happen is things would start to fall apart. And they'd say, well, that's not what I was trying to manifest. That's not what I was trying to manifest. But what was happening was, in order for you to get the new, in order for that moment to show up, anything that's in the way of that moment has to be let go. And so as you get more fluent and you get more refined in these skills, that's not such a hard process because you don't resist. When you lose things or when things break away, if you resist it, you create suffering. If you create suffering, that's where you start to really get the hard knock type of feelings, right? But once you're fluent in the 5D energy and you understand the energetic infrastructure of how frequency actually is put together, how it works, what the building blocks are, like parallel realities and electromagnetic fields, and how to work multidimensionally, and what are the rules of the road from 5D, because they're different than 3D. I think we talked about that in the last show. There's different from 3D. There's a different set of rules. There are different sets of parameters. And if you don't know that, then you're like riding around in bumper cars at the amusement park. You're not driving down the Autobahn and getting from point A to point B, right? So the first thing is things will seem to drop away. Now, in 5D frequency, what that means is get excited because your path is being cleared. Something's brewing. Something's up. Your 3D mind will say, oh my gosh, the familiar is going away. The familiar is going away. How can this possibly be? What's going to happen to me next? I better call the psychic. I better call, somebody, a friend who always gives me advice. See if they can see it. I personally have, just about every friend I have is a psychic for a living, because, like attracts like very, very highly energetic, advanced friends. And, there can be many, many times we're calling each other and saying, what do you feel? What do you feel? Because, of course, when you get into it yourself personally, sometimes you're saying, it's like, I'm getting this feeling. And it's more like we use each other as a sounding board and kind of as a ground person, just to say, okay, or like a validator. It's not so much a predictor, but just like, yeah, I'm getting that too. I kind of feel that too. Okay, yeah, we're all on the right track, that kind of thing, or not. And so, and we have a tendency, though, to lean into predictions. That's the 3D mind saying, I don't want to move until I know. Now, the higher self works completely different. It creates space so we can drop in, like you drop a pebble into the still lake. Create the space so that we can drop in the new content that you need to move forward. Now, if you're spinning out, trying to hold on to the past, resisting the idea that something has, kind of, smushed itself and gone away, comparing yourself to other people, oh, well, this happened for them, that must mean this. Don't ever, ever, ever use other people's experiences like that because they're a completely different frequency than you are. They are making different parallel choices than you are. And so just because something happened a certain way for one person does not in any way, shape, or form mean, from a frequency-based perspective, that same thing will happen for you, unless you choose it to. And if you spend a lot of time analyzing what happened for everybody else, just because your focus, wherever your focus goes, so does your energy, and that's what manifests, you will start to create the same experience that you witnessed them have. Not because that was legitimately what you were supposed to do, but it's because where your dominant thought was laying is what you attracted the most energy to, so that's what came up in your physical world. So again, when you're only sort of dabbling in this stuff and you're not frequency fluent, you will get a lot of hit or miss in these processes. And as you're hitting and missing, and then you're resisting, and then you're panicking, and then you're just getting stuck, and then you're saying, I'm just going to go back to basics. I'm going to go back to basics, back to my old way. What you do is you miss your moment. Now, the nice thing about moments is they can come back around again. Your higher self is going to keep pushing for your highest and best, for the most efficient route to what you want. If you start saying, I want speed, and I always say, please say gentle transitions, because, on the 5D side, there's no blame, shame, guilt, or fear, and there's no time, and there's no linearity. So they can drop anything in at any time, and things seem to go haywire, and they become nonlinear. And if you don't understand nonlinearity, if you don't understand 5D frequency or 5D infrastructure, and you're coming into this sort of state of the unknown as your world is starting to reconfigure so you can get to these higher level moments, and you start to try to address this meeting the moment with 3D linear thinking, you will get lost, because 3D linear thinking has a totally different infrastructure than 5D. In 5D, it doesn't mean you have to do step 1, step 2, step 3 to get to step 4. In 3D, you do. So let's say, for an example, you want to buy a house. If you go specifically, and let's say, you're an entrepreneur, or, you're in a kind of a non-linear type of job, or you're working for yourself. And so, the traditional way that you would look towards a house is a mortgage. And you say, okay, well, I have to see what my salary is, or what my dividends are, or what my money is for down payment, and what's my monthly income. And it has to be on a certain amount of, every 30 days, and, on and on and on. And there's all these linear checks and balances, right? And then you work backwards from that. And so that's the 3D way. That's the linear way. The 5D way is, I want this house. How do I want to feel in the house? I want to feel relief. I want to feel joy. I want to feel family. I want to feel love. I want to feel safe. I want to feel secure. I want to feel expansive. I want to feel creative. And you start to feel and muse with this configuration of this frequency of the house and the frequency of how you're going to feel. And then with that frequency, now you move yourself into the space where you already have the house, and that parallel reality, it comes loaded with its own kind of money. And then all of a sudden, if you're really listening and you're getting those downloads, your higher self is going to say, okay, this is what you need to do. You need to get this to this to this to this. Take this test to this test to this test. And then you find out, oh, somebody needs a house sitter for this house that's exactly like what you had on the bucket list. And not only do they need a house sitter, they just need somebody who's going to take care of the home while they're gone for 2 years on assignment in Brazil or something. And they need that person to just carry the utilities, do the carrying cost of the house. And then they do so well in Brazil, they want to just give you an offer to lease with the option to buy or something like that. These things configure all the time. Your desires do not have to go in a step-by-step linear way. Now, some things do. There's nothing wrong with that. You go into school, you have curriculums, things like that, of course. But what I'm saying is, when we're talking about going into the bigger, more expanded versions of you, surpassing the average, okay? If you're looking for average, this is not your place. You know what? Like, hang up now. Like, if you're looking for the average thing, it's not your place. When you're looking for above average, when you're looking for expansive, when you're looking for this heart-throbbing excitement in your life, when you're looking for that feeling of connection, of flow, of presence, of things going farther than you could ever imagined, you're looking for that expansiveness, then you have to start to really get fluent not in non-linearity. Be willing to receive the steps from your higher self that it will send to you in a variety of ways, and have the fluency to know how to connect those dots. And when you do, they will take you to the path of least resistance. They will take you to the most efficient path. Because there's no linearity, it can drop down without all of those little nitpicky steps. And as you get more fluent and as you get more confident, you start to see results. And you get more confident, you see, because your 3D mind is going to, first, in the very beginning, your 3D mind wants to see proof. That slows you down, quite frankly. The more advanced you get, like the girls who are in my year-long programs and my elite tier program, they're past that stage where they have to have proof before they're willing to believe. They believe it in. They believe first. And then they know that from a 5D perspective, that's what's required to configure. They know how to configure frequency to load in, and then they also know how to listen to their higher selves, get their downloads, and know, okay, my higher self is going to give me the next step to take. You know, the more complex your problems become, the more you need 5D to get you up out of them. I've been in a very, very interesting phase, and I think it's because, you know, we're doing the registration for the 5D Academy now, and I'm really taking it to a whole nother level. And I'm only doing a year-long program now. That like the entry-level program is a year-long because I want people to get fluent. That is the goal, is to get you as fluent in your 5D ability as your 3D ability, and to really then take that and rock your life out, like really blow out your life in the sense of in directions that where you're co-creating, co-communing with your higher self, and really going beyond anything that your 3D mind could have thought up on its own. Your 3D mind can never come up with its own new idea. It always needs those downloads from the higher self. When you're fluent in that ability to freeform channel to get those downloads, you'd be amazed at what, it will help you with and what it will tell you to do. And it will be very often very counterintuitive. And I have had some real complex, as of, in the last several weeks, I've had some real complex decisions to make, some real crazy things kind of blowing up in my face, and then having to make a decision. Do I want to handle this from a 3D perspective and kind of go like down that old kind of the old fashion, woe is me, I can't believe this is happening, blah, blah, blah. Or do I want to see this as an opportunity to step into the unknown and just say, okay, I'm open. What do you, show me what that next step I should take, and having kind of a high frequency patience. Now, basic patience is we've been taught to fold our hands and wait for our cookies and milk, right? Like a good obedient child. So when we say, be patient, it's like more about obedience. But in 5D, patience is active. Patience is the willingness to sit in the unknown, to sit without the answer, without knowing the answers, and not panic, but to explore and expand into that consciousness. So it's this active patience. It's this active allowance so that those things can download to you. Now, do you automatically trust this from hello? No. You have to go through several iterations of this, step by step. You will go, your higher self will bring you opportunities to start to learn this, to learn these skills so that it can get you strong enough in these tools so that when you have the bigger things, the one where it's going to truly be your moment, that you're not going to miss it, right? So they'll do micro lessons with you on micro things, and then they'll start to build bigger and bigger. Sometimes, depending on how stubborn you are and how resistant you are, they'll do it on a big thing, and that's the inciting incident. Most people come to me, they've had some sort of loss, or they're going through a transition, right? Should I stay with this person or should I leave this person? Should I stay with this job or should I leave this job? I feel I have a mission. I feel I have a business in me. I feel that there's something bigger for me. I feel that there's something better for me. What is that? And I can't stay the same. That's really the big key, is what I hear when I'm interviewing people for the Academy and otherwise, what I hear when I see, and I know, even friends and things, and they're about to make a big leap. When their moment is about to show up, all holy hell is breaking loose a lot of times, or they just all of a sudden feel like the energy that used to be there for a particular thing is no longer there. Like it just feels like, this thing that I thought was so exciting, so important, so, et cetera, it just doesn't have the same energy on it. And that's because you're being moved to something higher. In 5D, the unknown is where everything resides. So if you're uncomfortable with the unknown and you know every single little detail, every single little tick, you are keeping yourself extremely limited in the tiniest pool of opportunity. The more you can get comfortable with communing in the unknown and be fluent in the language that the unknown uses to talk to you. So you're really not sitting there idle. It'll sound to your 3D mind like you're sitting idle, but you're not. There's a whole lot of conversations going on in that silence. But if you don't have the fluency to understand and interpret what those conversations are, then it just feels anxiety producing because you're like, oh my God, I'm not getting my answers, right? So your higher self is really on a crusade to help you to get past all the normal stuff here. Right? Especially you guys who are empaths, and I call you talented light leaders, empaths, empaths with a mission. If you're feeling that mission, if you're feeling called forward, you're feeling like, things are just dropping away, you don't quite know where you're going, but you know you're going somewhere, and you just feel that sense of knowing, even if you're not fluent in knowing, you still have this sense of knowing, like, I just can't go back. And if I go forward, I need a guide to go forward. You just can't go back. When you get into that space, it is so powerful, because that's when your higher self is really stepping up and saying, a moment is coming. It's about to present itself. We need to get you ready. I liken it to the scene in The Wizard of Oz where Dorothy is getting ready to meet that wizard. And they take her to the beauty parlor with that dog and that lion, Tin Man and Scarecrow, and they're getting all polished up and curling irons and all that stuff. And she sees the horses of different color and all that stuff. And she's being prepared, right? She's being prepared for her next mission. And even though her next mission might be taking her through some obstacles as opposed to around the obstacles, right? She had to go through it. The universe and the angels and all these things that everybody prays to and everything, they won't necessarily take you around or eliminate a challenge. They will often take you through it so that you start to ask those kinds of questions like, is there a way that I can get through these things more efficiently? Is there a way that I can get guidance because I'm really stuck? I don't know anymore. My intellect hits its wall. I've hit my wall. If you're feeling that way, then this is that I'm talking to you. It's the lack of the 5D fluency. Your 5D abilities are meant to be 80% of what carries you as you walk the earth, and your 3D is meant to be 20%. And if you're only using your 3D, you're tired. Hands down, no way you're not. Or you're complacent or bored or whatever, but believe me, you're missing out on a lot. And so it's very important. The first thing you probably want to do is get yourself a journal and start to write down where you're at. Start to really be willing to dig in and look. So a lot of times what happens is when people get into this crossroads area, they start to kind of go in all directions, right? And they shut down. They're like, okay, I'll get to it. They procrastinate. Or they start to justify things. They start to justify, it's all okay. It's all, it's okay. I didn't really want to do that anyway. Or, oh, yeah, I had that big dream, but it's okay if I'm compromised. They start to compromise with themselves. How much do you compromise yourself? Do you keep your promises to yourself? And this is important. I talk to my classes about this. This is important. You must, if there's ever a next step for you to take so that you don't miss your moment, you must start keeping your promises to yourself. Because when you don't, then you actually magnify others not keeping promises for you. And that can get you into a real tailspin. I hear people all the time. And they're very upset. They're feel like they're victims of other people's behaviors and all these things. But sometimes I'll ask them, like, did you keep your promise how many promises did you keep to yourself today? You say, I want to exercise. Did you? You say, I want to start flossing my teeth with the water pick, or, eat asparagus or whatever, whatever those things are. Did you? Did you take that moment? And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is something that is very, very important. I used to certify psychics many, many moons ago. And one of the things that was really important for people to know is most psychics are like 80% accurate. Like, that's otherworldly, And when it comes to this type of energy work, people think that they need to be perfect in order for it to work. I must be perfect at my manifesting. I must be perfect at my intuition in order for this to work. And that's not true. Perfection is not required to get results. As long as when you start to hit that 60 to 65%, compliance to the rules, to the laws of the energies, you start to see major, major results. 75%, you're looking at miracles in your physical world. What will feel like a miracle to you, which is like all in a day's work for your higher self, but to your 3D mind, it'll feel like a miracle because it's nonlinear and it's coming in out of nowhere and it's, out of order, and you get like big hits of things without, having to work hard for it and all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to be perfect. So let's take perfectionism off the table to get big results. What you would consider to be big results, because your 3D mind is the one that's judging, big, small, whatever. It's about quantifying. So it's from a 3D mind perspective, for you to see big results, what your 3D mind would consider to be big results, 75% alignment and, attunement to this work, you're seeing it. You don't have to be 100% at all. Okay, so that's one big thing. The other thing is willingness. Are you willing to keep the promise to yourself? And you can start practicing that today. You can say, okay, there was something when I woke up or yesterday or last week that I said I was going to do today for myself without apology. Right? So when we get into the 5D Academy, we talk about living without apology. Because one of the things that when you start to get fluent in your 5D, you are going to be asked to stretch beyond the normal parameters of 3D, which means that you're going to stretch into the judgment of 3D. Remember, judgment, blame, shame, guilt, fear, all of that does not exist in 5D. But it is a big chunk of the 3D lifestyle, right? So a lot of people will truncate themselves and miss their moment because they don't want to outpace other people, or because they feel like they might be judged, or what if somebody thinks they're crazy for wanting to make a lot more money with a lot less effort? What if, it doesn't sound good when you say, you know what, I just want to make a lot of money, but I want to stop working so hard. Like, how hedonistic is that? Who are you, right? Have you heard that? Have you felt that? I'll tell you, when you get into 5D frequency, as you get more advanced, this is not from this does not start day one, but as you get more advanced and you really commit to getting yourself fluent, you will find that efficiency, energetic efficiency, is addressing energy first and then addressing the physical. If you want to slow yourself way down, you start thinking about all the linear things you can do and should do and, who's done what before, and you will add time and more blocks of time and more blocks of time. And all of a sudden you're missing that moment because you're taking too long because you're exhausted because there's too many things to do. When you are in 5D, less is more. Your higher self wants you to nail it, possible, to get on to the next level of expansion. Does no one any good for you to sit and sift around and, slave and work hard, what is it? No pain, no gain. That's not true. You'll get a lot more joy, a lot more traction, I should say, from play and being joyful than you ever will from pain. In fact, this summer, at the end of last year, last year meaning our school year, like back in June, we do our annual Summit by the Sea. And this year, of course, because of COVID, we had to do it on a Zoom call. And I also had done a virtual retreat. I can't remember if it was the virtual retreat, it was a one-day retreat, or if it was our Summit by the Sea. But I did talk a lot about that path of least resistance, of getting money with the least amount of resistance. Where are you willing to receive money from? Only willing to receive money. Is money only legit if it comes from a paycheck from a fancy corporate job? And all the other people who are doing that online marketing stuff, or people who are just living, entrepreneurial, or actors, or those creatives, they're not stable. I only get my money from dividends, from my stocks, and I'm only getting my money from a paycheck. You're living with such a level of limitation in 3D parameters that when the paycheck goes and the dividends dry up because the market crashes, people are jumping off of buildings because they're not used to the idea that money is unlimited and can come from unlimited sources. But are you giving yourself permission to receive it that way? Well, your linear mind really, it's hard for it to give itself permission to receive something that's so different without the support of the higher self saying, you should let this come in. Here's why. Right? So when you can do those downloads from your higher self, and your higher self can be the narrator of your life in real time, two-way conversation throughout your day, throughout the evening, even in your dreams, you can have that two-way conversation with ease. Game changer. And money can show up out of nowhere. Tonight I was walking Romeo, my big, over-the-top, very lovable, but very exhausting German Shepherd puppy. He's 2 now, but he's still, German Shepherds are puppies till they're like 3 years old. And he's like 110 pounds. He's huge. He's fun. He's everything. So we were walking our, fourth walk of the night, the late night walk. And I was, it's like I've been thinking, okay, so expansion. That's, I walk around the neighborhood thinking expanded. I may not know what's coming. I don't know, I don't try to predict. I'm not trying to, I'm just saying expand me into the unknown, expand me even deeper, and show me, physical signs of that expansion. And as I was walking, and it was like, I didn't want to go out a little earlier. It was just a timing thing. I just said, okay, let me go now. I just felt like go take them out now, and I did. And as I started walking up the steps to come back into the house, there was a stream of money, of dollar bills, a stream all the way up the steps. There was like $12 bills all the way up the steps. It was like money everywhere. It was like it had rained money, because at night those are on, and real water. And I just was like, oh my! And it was just like dollar bills all over the place. And I was like, okay, that's a sign. And I received that, and I, picked them all up. It's like those were left for me. Now there's other times that I've seen things in the street and I've left it there, because I knew, I just felt energetically from a frequency-based perspective. I asked, was that for me? And I said, no, leave it. And I leave it for somebody else. But that particular thing, it was like, boom, pick that up. Pick that up. So I put it in front of a candle on my little altar, and I just was, gratitude is just an indicator. So things like that will happen to you. It's an indicator. It's like the precursor to bigger windfalls. That's, if you want windfalls and you can't receive a windfall of $12 in the street, it's going to be very hard for you to receive those bigger windfalls that you're dreaming of, you're thinking of, right? So the small micro steps that you take in your willingness to trust, your willingness to be open, your willingness to allow, your willingness to fill in your blanks and learn and get fluent in these abilities, every small micro decision you make adds up. Every single micro decision you make counts, comes to your moment. And when I say moment, that moment to me is when your 5D and your 3D sort of kiss and they connect, and you get what feels like a miracle from a 3D perspective of synchronicity, of messengers, of presence, of opportunity, and you're ready for that opportunity, and you're listening to yourself, and you're living without apology, and you're saying, yes, I'm here, I'm present, I'm going. And you peak, and your moment is there as you peak. You don't miss it. You're present for it, and you maximize it. Okay? The beginning of that ultimate moment, or the ultimate moments, because of course we always have more. The beginning of that is the micro moments. How are you receiving your micro moments? Are you taking the quarter you're finding on the street as seriously as you would the lottery winnings? Are you honoring yourself by saying, you know what, I told myself I wasn't going to stay on the phone for 2 hours with my friend, analyzing the universe, analyzing every problem. But yeah, I used it as an escape today, and I did. I wasted those 2 hours. Like, are you going, so you let yourself down. Can you, in the next 24 to 48 hours, keep promises to yourself? Make that your highest priority. Because remember, when you're playful, when you're joyful, that's the permission slip for others to be playful and joyful. And play and joy actually is the biggest magnet to money way more so than work. In fact, in the fall, I'm going to do, in our academy, we do 2 virtual summits, 2 one-day summits. We have the big end of the year summit by the sea, which is more exclusive, but the one day, it's longer rather. The one dayers are topic based, and I'm going to do one in the fall on money, not abundance, not prosperity, money. Like, what is this flow that we're trying to get to? What does this actually mean? And are we allowed to just ask for cash, or do we have to flower it up with all these spiritual words that then don't have the energetic charge that makes us excited, it makes us feel safe, it makes us feel hopeful, and then it eludes us, right? So we're going to do like 5D cash flow. I haven't named it yet, but for those only, it's not a standalone thing. It's part of the year-long program, but it's one of the things that was downloaded to me. I've been getting a lot of chatter about it in the channelings, my daily channelings, that it's kind of rumblings of that, and I was like, okay, that sounds like an idea, because I think as light leaders with a mission, light leaders with a vision, light leaders with that internal sort of engine that you guys, if you're even remotely interested in this, you're listening to this podcast, you're taking notes or whatever, you're one of those people that I'm talking to. Not the dabbling, not the, I have to, a little this and a little that. I'm talking about you're really feeling like this, that big mission-based thing that's bubbling up in you. The cash flow piece is important, because the more secure you feel, the more expanded you could be. And that needs to be addressed very head on, and there's some very, very strong principles from a frequency-based perspective, like 5D money, 5D flow of cash. That's very, very powerful, very important to know those tools, because when you don't, you go off of that 3D infrastructure. There's 5D, there's 3D infrastructure about money, no pain, no gain, blah, 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 and then there's 5D infrastructure around cash and money. And it's a totally different set of rules for how and why and how it comes to you and all of that. So I think it's very important to understand that, because once you do, money really starts to take so much less of a priority in your head, because you have to get into what it is you're getting into, and the money shows up for it, as opposed to the other way around. I hear so many people, when the money flows, I'll try this. When the money flows, I'll do that. When I get more money, I would try that. When I get more money, I do that. And they don't understand that every time they say that, they're pushing that money away. They're using 3D building blocks against them. So, that's a bigger conversation. But I just want to bring it to your attention, because if you're doing that too, you're definitely putting your moments on hold, or they're coming and you're not ready, right? You're not ready to even notice it. There's a lot of moments that are passing by each day. If you're not fluent, you're not even noticing it. Once you are fluent, you might notice it, not quite be able to get your hands on it because you're just learning, but at least you'll notice it, right? Because you're going to learn how to notice things from a 5D perspective. It's not the same as, prove to me. From a 3D perspective, it's a whole different level of infrastructure. All right. So I think I've said a lot today. I think that's enough. I think if there's anything to take away from today, and I know in the description of the show, I talked about the twisties. We've been hearing a lot about, obviously at the time of this recording, we were going through the Olympics, 2021 Olympics. And of course, Simone Biles was, opted out of it, and she's having these twisties, right, where she loses her way in the air and doesn't know where she is physically in the air. And all the gymnasts have been talking about this now. This is a very real thing, and so it creates a lack of confidence and a lot of danger, But what I found was, it was interesting as I was contemplating this, because I watched gymnastics during the Olympics. I realized that so many people have the twisties mentally when they lack the 5D frequency training that was meant to carry them, right? So they if you don't have that, then you don't know, and you try to take a leap, it becomes really scary because you don't know if you're going to land. It's like, and then you blame it on cash. Oh, where's the cash? If I had cash, I could land, or I could take a leap. Or sometimes some people, they take big leaps, like a lot of entrepreneurs, I know myself included. We have to take big leaps. We have to. There's no other way. And if you're fluent in 5D, you don't get the twisties. You can see where you're going to land, or you trust that you're going to land. You can feel that knowing. I'm landing, and I'm landing solid. When you don't have that 5D fluency and you're just in this 3D linearity, you will be bogged down with fear. You will be bogged down with comparisons and competing, like, what happened to that person when she tried this? Oh, my God, she lost her shirt. And now you've already taken the leap halfway, and now you're starting to focus on, when Jane lost her shirt doing the same thing, oh, my God, and then you just kill it, right? That's when you fall off the vault, right? So when you are well-trained and well-seasoned, and it's, obviously it's a step more, a little bit more, obviously it's a commitment to step by step and, learning some different skills. But when you can fill up that skill set, that toolkit, and you can have an equivalent level of fluency in your 5D as you do in your 3D, you have no idea. Game changer. That's when they talk about, anything is possible, and it sounds like a cliche. It's possible when you have that. Because now you have access to the big storehouse of knowledge, and you have the physical prowess to operationalize it in physical 3D linear world. You can start to be ambidextrous, and you can start to be fluent in 5D as fluent as you are in 3D. So you understand the energetic languages just like you understand 3D languages of, and infrastructures and linear, and know when to use what to use when, and all the different crisscrosses and things and all the different combinations of things. And you really get that sense of fluency. It's just like, when you first learn music as a kid, you might bang pots together or hit a stick on the ground or listen to little nursery rhymes. But as you go through school and you start to learn music and how to read music and write music, et cetera, and all the phrasing and all of the different things, eventually you can create a symphony, right? Imagine if you could have equal amount of fluency in your 5D as you do in your 3D. And if so, what can you create? What can create for you? Path of least resistance, living without apology, getting a lot done more through play than through, quote, hard work. And that's the difference, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I think we're going to sign off for today on this topic. But if you would like to get fluent in those 5D abilities with me in my year-long mastermind, you can apply. It's an application only. I look at all the applications, and you'll hear if you have been approved within about 48 hours. And then once you have been approved, if you've been approved, you will get a notification, either an email or text, and we'll let you know, and then we'll let you know the next steps, which usually involves either group private training or a one-on-one interview with me. Depends on my schedule. At first I was like, okay, I'm only going to do the groups. And at one point I was only doing the calls, but I realized that realistically, with just how busy I am, there are certain weeks where I will be doing one-on-one interviews and other weeks where we'll do it in a group setting because we have so many applications coming in for those spots. And it's just more efficient for everybody to, sort of sit in that group call. But we'll let you know once you apply where we're at in the schedule for that particular week. And I would suggest, I just recently opened up 10 spots as early registration spots with a nice tuition discount and, good payment plans and things like that. So it's not, it's very accessible, very doable, and some nice bonuses as well. So if you'd like one of those 10 spots, we have a few that have already registered from last week. So we're working on the next few. And if you'd like one of those spots, I highly suggest that you go to www.theahaway.com/5D apply. So it's theahaway.com/5D as in David apply. And 5 is the number 5, not the word written out. So 5D apply. And that way you can fill out the application. We can get back to you and get you on your way to this and see that it's the right fit for both of us. So if you are ambitious and you're a heartfelt, empathic leader with a mission I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to work with you and get you on this path to fluency, because it's a game changer. And what's very important to me is to help the leaders, the ones who really feel like they may not know what that mission is yet. So I don't want you to feel like you have to know, I'm the next Steve Jobs or whatever. But if you feel that inkling, if you're at a crossroads, perfect time to apply. If you're feeling like it's time to take a leap and there's this insatiable hunger in you and you can't quite put your finger on it, that's your higher self knocking at the door. Come talk to Mari. Okay? If you're kind of still on the stage where it's like, that's kind of cute or curious or that's an interesting thing or, maybe someday, then it's not the time to apply and don't, But if you're feeling like there's something bigger, there's something like you're ready, if this has resonated with you, then I would love to hear from you. And please fill out the application thoroughly so that I can get to know you a little bit, and then we'll take the next steps. All right? So all that being said, let's get after it. Tomorrow, I want you to, in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, I want you to write down 3 promises that you're making to yourself and 3 promises that you're willing to keep. They should be the same promises, actually, right? You want to really start evaluating, am I keeping my promises to myself? And if you're not, what's causing that? Is it distrust? Is it confusion? Is it anxiety? Is it putting other people before you? Is it a lack of fluency in your 5D? Are you getting enough information to help you along your way? All right? Okay, everybody. Well, I think that's going to be it for this episode. We'll do another one for next week. And again, if you'd like to potentially join me in the 5D Academy, go to www.theahaway.com/5D apply. And I will see you next week. All right? Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.